Hello and welcome to Supernatural, the channel that likes to show you how truly natural the world around us really is. Now, I haven't posted in a really long time. I've just been really busy. Work has been kind of kicking my bum, and I wanted to post every month, but I've realized that I just don't have enough time to write a script, film it. Both of those together takes at least 2, if not 3 weeks, and then, an entire week of heavy editing. And I'm talking like 50 hours in 1 week of working on a video, especially if it's over 10 minutes long. It just takes a really long time to push content out, especially since I'm the only one that edits them. I'm definitely not the only one that scripts them. Shout out to my brother, Hunter, for working on these with me. He's absolutely amazing. Such an amazing skeptic. He thinks deeply about things. He helps me out a lot on these. But this one, I'm going solo. I wanted to make a video, and maybe I'll do this a little bit more often. I wanted to just talk a little bit more about ghosts, and I found a video that I thought was really funny. I've actually only watched about half of it. It's an 8-minute long video. I've watched about 4 minutes of it, and I just thought, man, this is funny. It's about 6 years ago that it came out. 6 years. By What Culture posted it. It's a very, Watch Mojo kind of video from back then. It's called 10 Most Compelling Pieces of Evidence that that prove ghosts are real, which is an insane claim to make in the first place, because evidence and proof are totally different things, right? You can't actually prove something in the scientific realm. Evidence helps support claims, right? But they don't prove claims. The fact that he's saying 10 most compelling pieces of evidence that prove ghosts are real is really strange. Let's dive into it.
What culture?
Ghosts are real. Don't argue it, don't dispute it, don't roll your eyes. Just accept that's the case and get out there and start looking for a friendly one.
He sounds like a psychic.
Like Casper. Obviously no one actually knows whether ghosts exist or not.
He literally just says no one knows, but the name of it says prove ghosts are real. So, just a bad title.
May do, but at the same time, that may also be utter nonsense. But that's not to say there isn't evidence that may start to turn even the most hardened of non-believers. People have experienced some pretty weird stuff where apparitions are concerned. There's every chance that maybe, just maybe, there's something to all this. I'm Simon from What Culture.
Something that I just want to point out is, yes, there is a chance that there are ghosts out there, that there is some type of thing that can interact with this world that we haven't been able to study, that we haven't been able to see, but I keep my hopes up for that moment where we are able to see those things. Something just to keep in mind is like likeliness as well. Like if I saw a ghost walk into my room and like it screamed at me, right, I'd be scared. I would. Like I wouldn't just be like, oh, this is fake. Like to me, it would feel real, and that's important. But once it left, like what's more likely, like an actual ghost was here and that there is an afterlife and that there are spirits that communicate with us and are here, and it appeared to me in my room alone when no one else was watching it and there was no camera recording to catch it, and it only happened in that one moment instant ever. Or was I hallucinating? I'm not saying it couldn't be the case, but I'm just asking what would be more likely.
I'm Simon from What Culture, and this is the 10 most compelling pieces of evidence that prove ghosts are real. Number 10, scientists can't make up their mind. Do you know what a scientist's job is? They use their big brains and resources to test things out and then decide whether something is possible.
Yeah, some scientists are really stupid, by the way. I would agree with a lot of scientists if they're using the scientific method correctly. That's how we're supposed to do it. We disprove our theories. We come up with ideas, we test them, we gain our hypothesis, and we try to prove them wrong. Some scientists, which I would argue aren't real scientists, muddy the water when it comes to certain studies, which is why actually, if you didn't know, the whole idea that an injection can cause autism started actually by a bad scientist that was being paid out to make the evidence look that way. It was a crazy thing. That guy was like, kicked out of the actual science community. There are bad scientists out there. People that claim to be something doesn't instantly make them smart. Okay, if you're a scientist, you could still be an absolute moron. I need to keep open the idea that I am an absolute moron and that ghosts are real and that they're watching me right now and I just look like a complete idiot to them.
Now let's be clear, many scientists are convinced that ghosts aren't real, but none of them can agree on why so many people think otherwise. It goes all the way back to 1830.
That was a really weird phrase. None of them None of the scientists can agree?
13 when a physician known as John Ferrara put them down to optical illusions, but other boffins were quick to dispute that too. Some claim hallucinations, others put it down to ball lighting or the limits of human perception. One guy even said poltergeist activity is down to humans not being able to process the low frequency hum of air conditioners properly.
It's not that scientists can't agree that ghosts don't exist. It's that scientists don't agree on why people are perceiving the ghosts. Chances are, most scientists would say, oh, it's probably a combination of all of the above, right? I'd be very impressed if one scientist was like, no, the only reason we see ghosts is because of your air conditioning. Oh no, the only reason we see ghosts is because of some light. The only reason. No, they probably would agree that there could be a lot of different things that we don't completely understand. Even today, I bet a scientist would agree that like maybe the slight radiation coming from your computer could cause you to hallucinate and see a ghost, right? But there could be multiple reasons for you seeing a ghost. The ghost actually being there is usually not the jump to conclusion, because it's kind of a jump if we think it's the AC that's affecting our eyes that make us think that we're seeing a ghost or maybe hearing a ghost. Let's study that. Let's put people in a room with an AC unit and people in a room without an AC unit and see, does group A see ghosts just as frequently as group B, or is there a difference? And then we can start, drawing conclusions from that.
Right. All this tells us is that the scientific community is pretty divided when it comes to a good haunting, so while we have no evidence to prove it, there's none to disprove it either. And that means there's a chance. Number 9.
So yeah, it's true. We can't disprove ghosts. It's like I walk into a room and say, hey, the world was created on Thursday. Everything on this world was created on Thursday. And you'd say, no, it wasn't. And I'd say, prove me wrong. And like, what could you do to prove me wrong? You'd be like, no, because I have photos of me last week. And I'd say, no, because that was actually created on Thursday. Like when everything was created, that picture was also created on Thursday. And you'd say, well, that's really stupid because I know I was doing something on Thursday. And I could say, oh, well, no, actually the idea of you doing that thing was created on Thursday. You didn't actually do it. And it's something that you can't disprove, right? You really feel like you were alive before last Thursday, but you can't actually prove that claim to be wrong because it's a ridiculous claim, right? There's nothing to prove it wrong. Same thing with ghosts. Oh yeah, there was a ghost in my room. Okay, well, let me go down and see. Oh, well, the ghost is invisible. Okay, then let's get a motion sensor down. Oh, okay, yeah. And then if the motion sensor doesn't go off, oh, it's because the ghost left, or the ghost just doesn't want to be detected right now. The claims that can always be justified in whatever situation usually are the ones not worth following.
Some scientists are looking for them. While there is some cynicism in the scientific field when it comes to ghosts, others couldn't care less about that and are much happier to go the Peter Venkman route and try to find out if there actually is something to all this. As well as being a mainstay on reality TV, paranormal research is damn serious, with some respectable people with badass equipment hunting to see what's real and what isn't. That doesn't.
Oh my gosh. If he's talking about like the normal scientists that you'd see trying to find ghosts and things like ghost adventures, like no. There are so many contraptions designed specifically to trick you into thinking that there are ghosts. The Ouija board itself, oh my gosh, I have it right up there. The Ouija board itself, it was used as an instrument to try and communicate with ghosts, and it was like totally believed by a lot of people, and then we actually did studies and found out, oh, there's the idiomotor effect where your body actually moves on its own without you trying to. It's an unconscious movement. But same thing, like they'll create anything that makes you think, we got EMF readers. Oh, well, if the EMF readers goes off, it means there's a ghost around. And it's like, no, it doesn't. Right? Until you can prove that every time the EMF reader is going off that there is a ghost present, it does not mean that. You're making an if-then statement that doesn't make sense because you're not backing it up with the correct logic. We had to prove these things, right? Like the logic should follow if that's the case. But these instruments, just because they exist doesn't mean that ghosts are real either. It's also a fallacy to say like if a smart person believes in something, then it's true. Yeah.
That doesn't mean there aren't some proper nutbags too. There are. But the fact rational, strictly scientific folk are out there looking for evidence of ghostly activity kinda sums up how unsure the community is. And let's face it, they wouldn't keep looking if they weren't onto something.
Oh my gosh. There's a Bigfoot community. There are a large group of people. I don't want to say it's small because like the more I dig into this, the more I actually find that people do truly believe the things that they talk about. Yeah, there's a huge community of people that believe in Bigfoot and they search a lot. And have we ever found Bigfoot? No, we have not found Bigfoot. I just want to make that clear. We have not found Bigfoot, okay? Just because a large amount of people believe in something also doesn't mean that it's true. And if they keep searching for it, doesn't mean that there's actually something to be found there. Just because a community believes in something does not make it more likely. You could say any religion, every religion at some point is like, well, the other religion's wrong. But there's a ton of people that believe it, right? Doesn't make it worth following, doesn't make it true. And once again, some scientists are morons.
Right? Number 8, all those creepy photos. Let's not pretend there aren't a bunch of photos pertaining to ghosts that aren't, well, lies. Photoshop has made that even worse than ever, to the point even kids can do it if they want, so that's a problem. However, when we move into certain eras
That's definitely not a real photo.
where a lot of creepy photos do exist, that situation changes. There simply wasn't the tools to muck around with the picture, and a lot of these from back in the day seem to show ghoulish visitors that are beyond explanation. Take the Brown Lady, which was taken at Raynham Hall in 1936. If that is a fake, good grief, is that an impressive fake?
I mean, yeah, maybe this actually was taken, right? Maybe there was something there, but what is more likely? Was it just an old camera that wasn't perfect taking a picture and there was a distortion? Was there dust? Was there some light gleaming off of something that messed with the lens? Like, there are so many answers that it could have been to say, oh, well, this is proof that there's a ghost because it looks like it's the shape of a human. I'm sure there's many photos where there's some kind of weird gleaming in different shapes that don't make it look like a human being. And we probably wouldn't jump to, well, some people would jump to the conclusion. But this, I guess you could say, oh, well, that makes me think maybe there is. And then what you should do is investigate more, take more pictures there, see what happens. You know, one standalone thing is not going to, change my view. And the fact that multiple things like this exist, it's like, yeah, I mean, we had old cameras. I'm not going to trust an old, super outdated form of technology to capture reality, right? That's not reality. That is a picture, actually. To say this is capturing what's actually happening is completely false.
And there's plenty more besides. In one, a group of RAF pilots were joined by their mechanic in a photo, which is lovely, until you find out that guy had died 2 days prior.
Oh, like there's a guy's face behind another guy. Yeah, I don't know much about that story. Hey, editor here. I was actually just looking into the story a little bit more because I was really curious about the actual origin of it. And it is a picture taken during World War I, and the supposed person as the ghost is Freddie Jackson. It was Sir Victor Goddard who claimed it to be Freddie Jackson, said that Freddie Jackson had died in battle 3 days before this picture was taken in an airplane battle. The interesting thing is that the records show that Freddie Jackson was a real person, but the records show that he died 225 miles away from where Victor Goddard said he died, and he died in a hospital. So not quite in battle like he's claiming, which makes it really sketchy to claim that this is a completely legitimate thing that happened. Now, I will say the picture is a little spooky, and who knows, maybe it isn't Freddie Jackson. But if we're just going to take Victor Goddard at his word, I don't know that we should, because the records don't line up.
Number 7, Einstein may have proven their existence. Let's not get into the specifics here because all our minds will simultaneously explode and we don't need that. But you probably know that Einstein was a big fan of the theory of relativity. In this theory, there's some inklings that an infinite number of realities actually exist, and that because of that, ghost sightings aren't actually ghost sightings, but beings that are living in a different existence that have bled through to our reality, which is even more terrifying. Following on from that is Dr. Henry Stapp, a quantum physicist who, along with some buddies, thought that a soul was simply quantum processing.
Okay, so going back to what Einstein was talking about, what he's talking about here is not ghosts. What he's talking about is a different dimension, which would just be a different person, a different actual real being. It's not some, oh, it's everything and nothing and it's our spirits. No, it wouldn't be our spirits. It would literally just be a different dimension of some creature and being able to interact with us. But also, we haven't found that either. Could it be true? Yeah, it could be. And the more, technology advances, the more we're going to try and dig into it. But that would not be a ghost.
Processing in our brains that allowed us to be conscious, meaning when we died, all of that was released into the world from our brains. If true, the theory stated this consciousness could live on as a mental entity and even potentially possess others, which does tick a lot of boxes. Admittedly, it does sound like something Derek Acora would say, but he's not a quantum physicist. Number 6.
I'm sorry, that was literally just a claim. That was like I walked into a room and was like, hey guys, the world was created on Thursday. It's like, give me some evidence of that then. That is literally just a claim. Quantum, I don't know. I feel like a lot of times when someone says the word quantum, they usually don't know what they're talking about either. Maybe that guy did know what he was talking about. Maybe he did have some evidence, but it was not at all brought up in this.
Number 6, the stone tape theory. The stone tape theory goes thusly. Ghosts that we see are residual hauntings and not the traditional lost souls roaming the earth. Instead, they're recordings of traumatic events that have imprinted themselves onto the environment where they happened, playing on an infinite loop. These ghosts aren't dangerous or even self-aware. They're basically just a VHS tape come to life. Pretty popular when it debuted through a TV show in 1972, the idea eventually evolved into moments of tension or stress in someone's life, causing great amounts of energy to be released. And then that energy can be absorbed by inanimate objects, causing a lot of nonsense to go down.
I mean, what the heck? What does that mean, though? What is energy? First off, what is energy? Can we feel that? No, I mean, when I think of energy, I think of like heat. I think of calories. I think of something that can be measured. When someone's upset and they scream, we don't detect energy at all. What we detect is probably heat. And if you feel, well, I felt the energy. No, that's you picking up on the clues, right? I don't know if you've ever seen, but like a child can be oblivious. Some aren't, but a child can be oblivious to you being upset, right? And I feel like that's a really good claim for like, yeah, there is an energy, right? But once again, you can make the claim, oh, well, it's because the kid wasn't open to the energy. And once again, if you can make a claim that it always has an excuse, I feel like it's just not a great claim.
I mean, a lot of that is silly, but there is some proof that suggests minerals found in videotapes that allowed them to record things also exist in the natural world too. Meaning, maybe life can film itself. Number 5.
To get that right, he's saying because there are minerals in a tape and there are minerals in the real world. Wait, by the way, if there weren't minerals in the real world that could create tapes wouldn't exist in the first place. Just saying that because there are minerals in those and there are minerals in the real world, that the real world is taking a picture of what is happening and will replicate it. So ghosts aren't even ghosts really. They're just phantoms of the past. They're just recordings. They're not even technically ghosts. But that would totally dispute the argument that ghosts can interact with the real world, that they can talk to you, that they can move things. And sure, maybe some people don't believe that they can do that. But wouldn't we see that on cameras then? Like if our eyes are being able to see it and it's the light reflecting off of them and it's the environment showing them and they're constantly on replay, wouldn't we be able to just go to a haunted house that ghosts do appear and literally re-record the exact same thing happening over and over again? Even if it takes every 10 years. Wouldn't we have found that out by now? I don't know. That's just kind of a crazy claim.
Hauntings affect house prices. Ghosts aren't real, or so they say. And yet when a house is associated with a haunting, its price drops. It can be so bad that in America, a realtor was found liable for not telling a customer a house that had already been sold may have had some spooks in it.
Oh, no. No, this has nothing to do with ghosts. This has everything to do with community. About 4 in 10 Americans believe in ghosts. Wow, that's a very large percentage. 36% of Americans believe in ghosts, which is a really high percentage. I actually feel like maybe it's larger, although, hey, if it's that percent, that's great. That actually makes me happy. But if a very, very large percent of your consumer believes in this, then it's going to affect the price. That doesn't mean that it's real. It has nothing to do with it being real. Just because a lot of people believe in Santa Claus does not mean that Santa Claus is real. But if the majority of people did believe that living near the North Pole meant that you got more Christmas presents, it would probably raise the price of the house if it was just a common belief. And believing in ghosts is one of those common beliefs. It has nothing to do with the legitimacy of that claim.
So basically in US law, ghosts are real and corrupting the housing market. A lot of people think this too. In 2005, a survey showed that 1 in 3 people think their home is haunted, and this can actually entice people.
If 1 in 3 people believe that their house is haunted, that's crazy. Why haven't we found any of these ghosts? If ghosts are that frequent, that's crazy.
People into spending more on a property as well. Take Nicolas Cage. He splashed out the cash to buy a mansion in New Orleans that was apparently haunted. That's not the only time such things have happened. Number 4, the testimony of Dr. Peter Fenwick. Dr. Peter Fenwick was a neuropsychiatrist. It's why when he talks about near-death experiences in the afterlife, you can buy in a little bit more than when, say, your nan tells you she had a chat with Elvis. His main argument was that the brain and the mind are
So I haven't heard of Peter Fenwick, so I'm actually interested in this one.
2 separate things, and then when you die, they each go their own way. So very much reverting back to the whole energy release we were chatting about earlier.
Already I'm having an issue with this because your mind and your brain are not separate, because we've actually seen that if certain parts of your brain are cut off from the other parts, it has an actual change in who you are, right? Your attitude about things, the way that you perceive information, basically who you are is different once your brain is affected. If your brain is cut off in certain parts, that's not good. If the brain and the mind didn't have any connection, why would that be the case then? How could this happen? Any type of brain injury, regardless of severity, may cause personality changes. Oh, whoa, that's unique. I don't know. I already have a problem with this claim.
Fenwick was also intrigued that when his patients talked about near-death experiences, they were always extremely similar, no matter what their background or self-belief system was. This led to him studying cardiac arrest, given that although the heart has stopped, and therefore the brain, individuals can still have these experiences.
If the heart stops, it doesn't mean the brain stops. What the heart is doing, it's providing blood to the brain. There's a certain amount of time after the heart stops that you have to really worry about this person. That's why you do chest compressions, right? Is to keep the blood flow. It's really to keep the oxygen flowing through your body, through the blood, providing oxygen to things like the brain, because the longer your brain goes without oxygen, the more severe your traumatic injury is going to be. I know that we do correlate, your heartbeat with being alive, right? But just because your heart stopped doesn't mean that your brain instantly stopped. There's actually, good evidence to say that the brain is still functioning for a while until it stops, right? And that's also why you have brain dead people. Their brain isn't functioning anymore. It's too damaged. You can't get it back. Doesn't mean that there is an afterlife. It just means that maybe all brains do a similar thing whenever the heart stops beating and it's not getting the oxygen flow that it needs. Yeah, just generally speaking, the brain does not instantly stop when the heart stops. That's a ridiculous claim. I kind of doubt Peter Fenwick claimed that either. I bet you it's just what culture portraying it in a very poor way.
Which suggests that consciousness and having a brain do exist independently of each other, which again means when you see a ghost, it's not a ghost and is in fact someone's consciousness, just doesn't have a home. Number 3, their prevalence in popular culture.
These are the worst evidences. These are 10 most compelling evidence, and one of the evidences is that it is prevalent in culture? How could... Barbies are prevalent in culture today. Unicorns are prevalent in today's culture. Are they real? They were prevalent for a very long time. Fairies. Fairy godmother. Santa freaking Claus is prevalent in American culture today. That does not make him at all likely to be real. It's not, I wouldn't even say that's evidence for Santa Claus being real. Just because it's not, I'd say a lot of people believing in it, maybe you could say, hey, that is some evidence for something here. Maybe that's something to take into account. I don't know if I want to claim it as evidence itself. I feel like that's a fallacy. But the prevalence in popular culture for sure is not evidence.
For as long as anyone can remember, ghosts have had their place in stories to try and scare people. Even during periods where horses ruled the earth, there were still spooky tales of things that go bump in the night. A huge reason for this is because it taps into some primal fear we all have of such things, the fear of the unknown.
That was a really good debunking that you just did right there. I thought you were providing the evidence. You just showed why it's so prevalent. It is literally tapping into the fear of the unknown. Hey, what if there is an afterlife? What would it be like? Would we be able to interact with each other? Oh my gosh, something went bump and I don't know what it was. You know what would be really scary is if I couldn't know what it was. right? And that's what I think a big fear of ghosts come from, is it's this huge unknown thing. If we knew that something went bump and it was our AC unit, would you be scared? No, you would instantly just like brush it off. But if you heard a bump in the night and you didn't know what it was, it scares you, right? And you jump to scary conclusions. The brain, that's just how we survive. That's literally the brain saying, hey, there's unknown. We're going to get into defense mode because we need to protect ourselves. It has nothing to do with it being real, right? It's just us being protective.
The fear of what happens when we croak, and of course, the hell are ghosts. So why tell these stories if there wasn't something to them? Is it because we're drawn to something we're actually not too sure about? That, like, ghosts are real? If not, whoever invented them should be loaded by now. That is some serious longevity.
Oh yeah, people that believe in ghosts and like put out fake content all the time. I'm sure these people make a ton of money. Recently, I saw this video where this girl was reacting because like there was a ghost in her house and there was a cross oddly placed with nothing around it. It was just like straight up in the center of the room, little cross with a big wall, and the camera's pointed almost directly at it. I thought that was a little suspicious. Seemed kind of interesting for a camera to be inside of your home. And I thought, I think I could redo that myself. And so I did. I literally did it myself. I posted online, and only a few people commented saying that they didn't think it was real. The majority of the comments were actually like, you need to bless your home. You need to stop messing with the Ouija board. You need to turn towards Jesus right now. And one person was like, thank goodness someone recorded it. And there was someone that responded to that comment saying the quality suggests it's a security camera. And the funny thing is, it was literally my phone. I'm filming with my phone right now, and it was my phone up in the corner of this room right here. And it was facing down, and I just lowered the quality. Yeah, I just edited it to be lower quality than it actually was. So it looked like it was a security camera. And that was probably the easiest part. That was the easiest part of the entire video, was just that. But hey, it was convincing to her because, it was low quality. Like how would they do that?
Number 2, the sheer number of ghost sightings. Made up stories are one thing, but you've also been hearing about people actually seeing ghosts for hundreds of years.
Okay, this is funny because his first claim was that scientists can't agree on why there are so many ghost sightings, but then gave a ton of reasons, right? It wasn't that scientists were like, well, because there's so many sightings, it must be that ghosts are real. No scientist was claiming that. I'm sure maybe there is a person out there, but that logic wouldn't line up well, right? Just because there's multiple of it doesn't mean it's actually real. It just means that there are multiple sightings, right? Multiple people believe that they are seeing ghosts. The question isn't why are they seeing so many ghosts? The question is if they are seeing any ghosts, right? So there are multiple sightings, and we've also claimed that there are multiple reasons that you might think you see a ghost. And we already talked about the fear of the unknown. Heck, he even brought up that your air conditioner maybe could be doing it. We don't know for sure, but there is no knowledge that yes, there is a ghost interacting with the real world. That has not been found. That hasn't, and we've tried. Trust us, we've tried. And the fact that we've tried so hard and haven't come up with anything is, it's a little disappointing. But, it kind of leads me to believe that maybe there isn't something to be found there after we've looked so hard. But hey, I'm glad people keep looking. I just hope that they actually use good scientific reasoning and skeptical thinking.
Hundreds of years. There's been so many first-hand sightings and experiences of ghostly interactions, you can't just ignore it or suggest they're all lies. And sure.
Yes, that's true. In my Ouija board video, I talked about how there are so many claims that people have had experiences with the Ouija board, and you could chop it all up to your friend is pranking you, but because it's happened so many times, it'd be really hard to make that claim and it stand alone. And so I say it covers a lot of them, but not all of them. Same thing with ghost reportings. A lot of them I don't think are real. I would say probably any of the actual scary videos that you see online are fake. In regards to spirituality, if there's any spiritual video online that is scary and it's scary to you, it's fake. I almost want to say that 100%. Now, I could be wrong. But if you know a video that you claim to be 100% true and it has spiritual, a spiritual thing happening in there and it's recorded and it seems legit to you, send it my way. I'd love to look at it. But, some people looked at my video and thought it was real, and I faked every piece of it, and I just didn't say.
There's loads of explanations as to what these could be, but again, no one knows. And not everyone that has seen a ghost is nuts. Perfectly reasonable people have told many of the same tales, and this will probably continue until the sun blows up.
Yeah, and also tons of people have claimed that they saw the Virgin Mary, and they weren't crazy people, they were believable. Tons of people believed that they've seen voodoos fly, and they weren't crazy. It's so common to think you see something that you're supposed to see. If I walked into a creepy room and saw something creepy, like a ghost, what are the chances that there actually was a ghost in there, or that I was just preconceived to think that there was a ghost in there because it was a creepy room?
Or until someone can recreate this in a lab. But that's never gonna happen.
What is he saying? You can't recreate ghosts. I mean, yeah, you can't recreate a ghost because ghosts haven't been found in the first place. We wouldn't even know what we're making. Yeah, we wouldn't. It's like saying create God in a machine. Well, we don't know what God is. Not actually. No one can pinpoint what God is. Well, he's everything, and we can't do that. Okay. Same thing with ghosts. We don't know what it would be to make. But what we can do is facilitate spiritual experiences. And that has been done multiple times by frauds. I don't want to say frauds, but there are mentalists who can play around with your emotions and make you feel like you are having a spiritual experience when in reality, they're not inviting a spirit in. They're not doing anything except just kind of playing with your mind a little bit to make you think something is happening that actually isn't. And it's very easy to do. Well, I don't want to say very easy, but it is very common to happen.
Because if it could, it would have already. It ultimately comes down to you and your own thoughts, and many people are going to be convinced that what they saw is real.
Well, yeah, of course you're going to be convinced that it's real if you're seeing it, but a good skeptic would walk away and say, okay, how real was that, right? If I saw something, and I'm not saying you do this every single day, like when you walk down the street, you don't just say, am I actually walking down the street? But if you were walking down the street and your shoes were on your hands and your underwear was outside of your clothes, it might be a good time to question, wait, am I dreaming right now? Is this normal for me? Is the environment around me behaving normally like it usually does? These are the questions that you would ask after the fact, right? You see a ghost, you completely believe it, and you walk away. Now you need to start questioning and say, wait, did I actually see a ghost? Then you should go back, you should study it, you should look around. Something that I don't like about ghost TV shows is a lot of times they hear a big bang, they hear something, and instead of getting close, they'll be like, oh my gosh, there's a sound, there's something on this step. And instead of getting closer to the step to see if the sound is actually coming from the step, they just stare at it and don't move. If you hear a sound, right, and it's a ghost, you should go to the sound instead of run away from it. I'm sorry. We don't have any reason to think that ghosts are scary, except for the fact that they're unknown. We don't know exactly what they would do, but that's not good reason to be afraid of them. What we should do is be curious. We should be curious every single time something like this happens so that we can actually get to the bottom of this, because if we all were curious to find out the truth, then maybe we'd be a lot closer to it. And we wouldn't have to dispute so much if not there were ghosts. We'd be able to disprove a lot of our hallucinations, or maybe we'd be able to confirm that ghosts are actually there and they aren't hallucinations.
Number 1, how they persist through human culture. All cultures throughout history have had their own versions of ghost stories. That is kind of weird, especially because inherently ghosts have no impact on the world around them other than to freak someone out every now and then.
Witches are consistent in a lot of cultures. A lot of people believe that voodoo is a real thing. And is voodoo a real thing? Well, not that we've ever been able to find, but it's a spiritual thing. Well, generally speaking, if I made a voodoo doll and I stabbed it and tried to kill it, and I was intending on killing my father, would he die? He would not die. He wouldn't. That's because voodoo dolls don't actually work. But, in theology, that's passed on in a lot of culture. It doesn't make it real.
But whether you're talking about Shakespeare, religions, poetry, or even the Ouija board, the idea of a spirit or apparition never really goes away, and it's
Ouija boards are not that old.
Something that everyone on Earth basically understands. And they've been around since day one, pretty much. Even society 11,000 years ago would hint at ghostly happenings, and that shows just how deep this thing runs. So surely, there's something to it all.
I don't even know what fallacy that was, but that did not make sense to me. Surely there's something to this all, as if ghosts are real because human culture has created them. I think there are dragons in every culture. Yeah, I think there's some form of dragons, big scaly creature. Maybe it has wings, maybe it blows, maybe it breathes fire. But dragons don't exist, and they don't exist anymore. Depending on, they're not fairies. They don't live on more the more you believe in them. There is no correlation between belief in something and the reality it has. But interesting enough is I've not met someone who's been able to get possessed who didn't actually think that they could get possessed. That's something that I have not encountered. Although I have encountered people that did believe they could get possessed, claim to be possessed, act kind of crazy, tremble, do like the silly little dances and things like that. And I remember watching it and just being like, I feel kind of normal, And if ghosts were real, maybe I should have felt that energy too. I don't know. It's just odd. It's just an odd thing.
No? Know of any other pieces of evidence that prove ghosts are real? Let us know in the comments below. Tell the newspapers. And then don't forget to like, share.
And tell the newspapers. I like his tone. I don't think the people that created this actually believed. I think they were just trying to get views. Okay, yeah. Let's go down and see some of the things on this are people think it's true, therefore it's true, which is the most unscientific reason I've ever heard. The one about the older pictures having ghostly images can actually be explained away by the equipment used. Some of the cameras have left a faint imprint of previous photos and sometimes bled through into newer photos. I didn't even know that. I did not even know that. That is actually really cool to know. Thank you so much, Valdris, for pointing that out. I'm 58, never seen a ghost. My son told me if he passed before me, he'd come back and tell me if there was something after death. We made a pact that I would too. Little did I know he would die suddenly in 2019, never did come back. Now I know there is nothing after we go. Our bond was too strong for him not to come and tell me if there was something. Aw, that's actually really sad. Although, that doesn't disprove it, but that is really sad. And I kind of like your following up, but also if something did happen and you attribute it to your son, I don't know, it's a slippery slope. It's a slippery slope to start believing in something that may not be true, to make a pact like that. But my condolences. That's really sad. Well, I spotted my first ghost when I walked in my room in the morning and stood next to my bed. He looked around the room, completely ignoring me before turning around, walking up the hall and disappearing outside the small box room. That's all the evidence I need. You are missing out on so much information here. So one time when I was young, I woke up in the middle of the night. I was sleeping in the basement. I hated sleeping in the basement, but all my cousins were over. I had a bunch of cousins over, by the way. And I'm sleeping down there, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I opened my eyes, and I saw a minotaur. I kid you not, giant minotaur. It had like a ring in its nose, the piercing in its nose, and it was and it was breathing hot air out of its mouth. Or not mouth, nose, like I could see it. I didn't feel it. I just saw it go, and I was like, and I covered my face with my blanket. I was so scared. I was trembling. And I think I sat there for 2 minutes, just so scared, because, the moment I take off my covers is the moment I'm going to be staring at this minotaur again. I don't know how a minotaur got down there. I didn't even know minotaurs existed. Well, when I took the blanket off, there was no minotaur. And my assumption was that there was never a minotaur, ever, right? In the first place, it was a hallucination, right? Because minotaurs aren't real. But if I saw a person do that, then maybe I would have assumed that it was a ghost. I actually might have done that when I was young, because we have this preconceived notion that ghosts are real and that, there's reason to believe in them when there's really not that much. And if that was what I saw, I would have totally believed I saw a ghost, and it would have scared the crap out of me. I would have been scared for so long. I would not have been able to sleep that night because I would have thought that there was a ghost somewhere in my basement. But because I knew minotaurs aren't real, I was able to dismiss it completely and just said, hey, I'm just going to go to bed. And I did. And that's what I did. So, spotting it, walked into your room in the morning. I'm assuming you just woke up. That's not great. First off, people hallucinate all the time in the morning. You're in a very dreamlike state when you first wake up. You ever wonder why a lot of times when you wake up and someone's talking to you, it sounds like they're not talking to you? They make memes about it because your brain isn't fully awake yet. Who knows what you're seeing, if it's real or not? You can't comprehend as well. Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's anything too interesting in these comments. But basically, I just want to make this quick video. I'd love to make another one. Maybe sometime I'll start doing lives and just streaming and talking about ghost things. I'd love to dive deeper into theories about ghosts being real and kind of debunking them. I'd like to debunk regular ghost videos, although I don't know if I want that to be my main thing. I do at some point want to make longer form content, long form. I want to make more developed content with like actual scripts and fancy editing that takes more of my time. But until I can actually get this channel running a little bit smoother, this is just going to have to do for now. And I really appreciate anyone who watched this far. If you wouldn't mind, consider giving me a like, a comment, and subscribing if you'd like to see future content. But of course, if you hated this content, I'm sorry, and I'm sorry that I wasted your time. You should have clicked off by now. I don't know why you didn't. But for all those who did watch this far, stay skeptical. Thanks.